All right, so today we're going to dig into a really interesting corner of the agricultural world.
Yeah,
We're not talking about the actual farming part.
right.
This is all about the business side, the trading.
Exactly.
Specifically, have you ever heard of a wholesale merchant in agricultural raw materials, seeds, and animal feeds?
It's a mouthful, isn't it?
It's a mouthful. But basically, these are the people who keep everything moving. They're the
Absolutely.
ones making the deals, buying and selling, all this stuff that, honestly, most people don't even think about.
It's the engine room of the entire industry.
That's a great way to put it.
They make sure farmers have the seeds to plant the feed for their animals, and ultimately that all becomes the food we eat.
Exactly. So I've been looking through this RoleCatcher guide you sent over, and it says high profitability potential right at the top.
Well, there you go.
So we're talking big money here, right?
Potentially, yeah. It's a high-stakes world for sure,
High stakes, yeah.
but also high risk.
Yeah.
You got to remember things like commodity prices, they fluctuate all the time.
Oh, for sure.
Weather can throw everything off. It's not for the faint of heart.
So you got to have a certain personality type to really thrive in that kind of environment.
100%. This isn't your typical 9 to 5.
Okay, so let's paint a picture then.
Sure.
What does a day in the life of a wholesale merchant even look like?
Well, imagine this.
Okay.
You might start your day, in your office analyzing market trends on your computer,
Okay.
but that afternoon, you could be out in the field. Yeah, meeting with farmers, checking the quality of the raw materials firsthand.
The guide even mentioned international travel, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Conferences, negotiations.
It can be a very dynamic job.
So you're not just stuck behind a desk all day.
Definitely not. You need to be comfortable in a lot of different settings and with all sorts of people.
So it sounds like you're constantly learning, too.
Oh, absolutely. The agricultural industry is always evolving.
Right.
New technologies, new regulations. You need to stay ahead of the curve.
So where do you even begin? Like, if someone's listening to this and they're intrigued, what are the first steps towards becoming a wholesale merchant?
Well, this RoleCatcher guide, they really emphasize hands-on experience.
Okay.
Internships, part-time jobs in the industry, even volunteering at agricultural events.
Yeah.
It's all about getting your foot in the door and learning the ropes.
So you're saying it's not enough to just have the theoretical knowledge?
Exactly. You need to understand how things work in the real world.
Okay, that makes sense.
And once you've got some experience under your belt,
Yeah,
you can start thinking about specializing.
because there are different paths you can take within this field, right?
Oh, absolutely. This guide lays out 3 main stages. You start as a junior wholesale merchant, then you move up to a regular role.
Okay.
And eventually, you can become a senior wholesale merchant.
So you're basically climbing the ladder.
In a way, yes. And each level comes with more responsibility, more complex deals, and of course, potentially higher earnings.
So it's a clear progression path, but you're also saying there are other options.
Right. Yeah. The guide mentions other roles like sales manager, trade manager. You could even branch out and start your own wholesale business if you're feeling entrepreneurial.
Now that's what I call thinking big. Okay, so starting your own business.
Wow.
That's pretty ambitious.
Definitely.
But let's maybe take a step back for a second, right?
Sure.
We've talked about what the day-to-day, the skills you need.
Right.
But what about the why? Why would someone listening even be interested in this kind of career?
That's a great question.
Is it just about, making a lot of money?
Well, it can be lucrative for sure,
right.
but honestly, it's about so much more than that.
Okay.
You're at the heart of something really important, the global food supply.
That's true.
You're not just buying and selling, you're actually making a difference.
Right. You're making sure people have food on their tables.
Exactly.
That's a pretty powerful motivator, I think.
Absolutely. And it's also incredibly dynamic.
Okay, how so?
You're constantly learning, adapting to new challenges, meeting people from all over the world.
So it's never boring.
Never boring.
The guide also mentioned professional development, conferences, certifications.
Yeah, there's always something new to learn.
So in terms of specialization, what are some areas a wholesale merchant might focus on?
Well, with global trade, you really need to understand international markets,
Yes.
regulations, all of that.
Right.
And then, of course, logistics, supply chain management, how to get those products where they need to be.
So you're like the conductor of an orchestra,
Uh-huh. I like that.
making sure everything runs smoothly.
And speaking of running smoothly, sustainability is becoming increasingly important.
Oh, absolutely. Consumers care about where their food comes from.
They really do. So Knowing how to source responsibly, minimize environmental impact, that's huge.
So it's not just about moving product, it's about doing it the right way.
Exactly.
Okay, we've got global markets, supply chains, ethical sourcing. What about technology?
Oh, technology is transforming everything.
Yeah.
Data analysis, artificial intelligence,
Wow,
even blockchain is being used to track food from farm to table.
that's amazing.
It is. A good wholesale merchant needs to be tech savvy these days.
So you're blending that traditional knowledge of agriculture with cutting-edge tech skills.
Exactly.
Okay, so for someone listening who's thinking, this actually sounds pretty cool, but is it right for me?
Good question.
What are some like personality traits or interests that might make someone a good fit for this role?
Well, obviously, a passion for agriculture is a good starting point.
Right, you got to care about the product.
Exactly. But you also need to be a strong communicator, a good negotiator.
Okay. Yeah.
And crucially, you need to thrive in a fast-paced, constantly changing environment.
Right, because we talked about commodity prices, weather patterns.
Mm,
A lot of factors are outside your control.
100%. You can't be afraid of a little risk.
So you've got to be able to think on your feet,
Absolutely.
make decisions under pressure.
And you have to be self-motivated.
Okay, how so?
Well, you're often working independently, managing your own time.
Right.
You need discipline, organization, accountability.
So it takes a certain type of person to really excel in this kind of role.
It does.
It's all about, like you said, that drive to kind of forge your own path.
Exactly.
But even with all that, even if you've got the skills, the personality, the drive,
Right.
the job hunt itself can be tough.
Oh, absolutely. It's competitive out there.
So any advice on like how to stand out? We talked about the RoleCatcher stuff, but what else?
Well, for starters, networking is crucial.
Okay.
Go to industry events.
Yeah.
Connect with people on LinkedIn.
Right.
Don't be afraid to reach out for informational interviews.
Just start conversations.
Exactly. You never know what might come of it.
And it's all about building relationships, like
100%.
showing you're genuinely interested.
And don't underestimate a strong online presence.
Okay, so like, what does that even mean these days?
Well, make sure your LinkedIn profile is top-notch. Showcase your skills, your experience,
Okay.
maybe even start a blog or write some articles.
So become a thought leader, someone people see as an expert.
Exactly. And when you're applying for jobs,
Yeah.
don't just send out generic applications.
Right.
Tailor your resume and cover letter to each specific role.
So really highlight the skills that are most relevant to that particular job.
Exactly. Make them see you've put in the effort.
It's about showing them you actually want that job, not just any job.
Exactly.
It's like you're making a connection with the company.
Right.
Showing them you get it.
It's about standing out from the crowd.
Okay, so what about after the interview? Any advice there?
Always send a thank you note.
Oh, that's a good point. People don't do that enough anymore.
It makes a difference. It shows you're appreciative of their time.
Right, and it keeps you top of mind.
Exactly.
So it sounds like there's a lot to think about with this career path.
There is.
It's not always easy, but it can be incredibly rewarding.
It really can be.
Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to break it all down for us today.
My pleasure.
This has been incredibly insightful, and I know our listeners have learned a lot.
I hope so.
So for anyone out there who's feeling inspired,
Yeah.
maybe even ready to take the plunge,
Go for it.
definitely check out those RoleCatcher resources we talked about.
They're a great resource.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll catch you next time.